Good morning and a very warm welcome to the very first TechSoup Connect Southern Africa event for the year 2022. My name is Samantha Barnard. I'm going to be your facilitator for today. And I do hope over the next hour-ish with me, I will be able to help you build a live streaming strategy for your nonprofit to tell your digital stories. Before we begin, I ask that you please mute your microphone and switch off your camera, and also introduce yourself to us in the chat box. We'd love to know which nonprofit are you representing today and whereabouts in the world are you based. So I wanted to start off this topic session and discussion by detailing some of the benefits that I have found live streaming can give you and your nonprofit. First of all, it's pandemic safe. I'm pretty sure that you can all agree with me that COVID has taught us that at any given time things can change and we need to do a full 360 as to going from what we perceive to be normal to a new normal. And one of the benefits of live streaming is that it doesn't matter where in the world you are based, whether you are in a lockdown or not in a lockdown, as long as you have access to the internet, social media apps, and a good device, meaning a smartphone or a laptop, you can live stream. Another benefit is that tools exist for all levels of expertise. It doesn't matter if you're an entry-level, first-time fundraiser, or if you're an experienced board member that might have been given a memo to start doing more out there type of marketing campaigns for your nonprofit. There are tools that exist for every single level of expertise, regardless of where you are in your nonprofit journey. Another form of benefits is that it is a cost-effective way to deliver your social impact. Live streaming can allow you to chat to your different segments of audience types, meaning your donors, your stakeholders, or your beneficiaries. Perhaps you need to deliver your social impact in the form of education and resources for beneficiaries, and you want to meet them wherever they are in the world or in their journey with your nonprofit. Another way to have cost-effective fundraising online opportunities through live streaming is it allows you to always be in contact on the go in a very authentic way with your donors and your stakeholders, possibly even the friends of your organization and the partners to your nonprofit that help keep your nonprofit sustainable. And then lastly, a huge benefit of live streaming for your nonprofit to tell your digital stories is that it helps you increase your brand visibility. And the reason for that is once you post a live stream or host a live streaming session on your social media, when you've ended that session, that video and that content stays on your platforms forever and ever until you delete it, if you so wish. That means that that content can be repurposed over and over. People can watch it at any given time when they are comfortable and at their own pace, and that helps you increase your overall brand visibility. So what are the myths? Because there are always myths. And for many of you, you know that I have been live streaming for a very, very long time. And I started with these myths as well. And that's why I wanted to host this session this morning with you, because I think it's important to tell you the good, the bad, the pros, the cons, but also to help you understand that I too sometimes think the same things that you think. So for example, what we hear often from nonprofits, and even sometimes myself at the beginning of a month when I start planning our content for the month, I sometimes think, oh, what are we going to talk about? What should we talk about? And we've got nothing really to talk about. But the beauty of live streaming is that you have got digital stories to tell, or you've got stories to tell about your impact and your mission and your vision in a digital format. And it's very important that we tell these stories, even if it is something as simple as just who your team members are, or why you started your nonprofit organization, or perhaps who your board members are and what their vision and mission for your organization is and why they are your board members. There is always something to talk about through live streaming to tell your digital story and to get started. Another myth is that professional level is required, and that's simply just not true. Like I said earlier on, if you have an internet connection and you have a smartphone, and many of the smartphones nowadays come out with really good cameras and really good capabilities, and most of us have got those smartphones, or you have a tablet, or even you have a laptop at your nonprofit organization office, and you can live stream from it. That's basically all you need. Expensive equipment is required is definitely a myth. You do not need expensive equipment, and I'm going to detail a little bit later on as to some of the tools and tips that I have and that I use on a regular basis if you don't have, for example, a tripod. Another myth is that large behind the scenes teams are required, and that is just not true. Now, if you are going to be live streaming about a topic that only requires you to talk and not that much engagement back from your community that is listening, you can do it quite comfortably and confidently on your own. However, if you are going to use your live streaming platforms or opportunities to deliver educational resources to, let's say, your beneficiaries, and they might ask you questions in the chat, it might be a good idea to have somebody else from your team to be in the chat box with you to moderate that content. The last myth that I have on this slide is that expensive software and tools are required, which again is just simply not correct. It's not the truth. You don't need to spend a lot of money on pro versions of software. There are software and subscriptions out there that are available to nonprofits that are eligible for free, and you can use their functionality to do many, many things on a live streaming platform on a continuous basis. So now, what are some of the truths? Well, the first big one that I want to share with you is that I too, even after my many, many years of live streaming, I too am scared every single time that I go live. And I too worry that viewers won't watch me. I know that I have good content. I know that I am always online. I've got a good community of digital audience members that look forward to my content. But every time I go live, I also worry that, oh gosh, is anybody going to watch? Is my content going to be relevant? Am I going to say the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Is this the right time to deliver the content? And I'm also worried and a little bit nervous, similar to if I do some public speaking. So I wanted to share that truth with all of you because it's truthful for you, it's truthful for me, but the good news is that because you feel that and because I feel that, once you get over that hurdle, I promise you live streaming can be a phenomenal tool to deliver your social impact for your nonprofit. I too started with an entry-level smartphone back in the day, and I too started with entry-level apps in terms of live streaming capabilities. So much has happened in the past couple of years with regards to the change of technology and the tools available. And when I started, live streaming looked very, very different. You couldn't add text on top of your video. You couldn't put embedded links in. You couldn't do logos maybe at the beginning or the end. You couldn't do countdowns. I mean, there were so many things that you couldn't do when I started. And the reason why I'm sharing this truth with you is because I want you to just start. Another truth is that raw impromptu streams can surprise you, and I promise you they will. By this, I mean that you can have content planned for a couple months in advance. You might have it linked to projects that you've got on the go at the moment, but the live streams that will do the best for you are going to be the ones where you just very impromptu decide to open up your camera and go online and say, hey, everybody, just to check in, how are you? Or what's happening in your community? Let's sit and chat. Or, hey, nothing to do with this nonprofit that I'm representing, but I'd love for you to join me as I go on a tour of our offices or whatever the case. Those raw impromptu streams show your authentic side. It shows the people behind the nonprofit name, and that is what donors, stakeholders, partners, and beneficiaries most want to see. And then lastly, a massive truth, which I hope is going to help kickstart you on your live streaming journey, is that a live stream can be repurposed, which means huge return on investment. Now, a slide back, I said you don't need to pay for the tools, which is correct, but you do need to invest your time and some strategy behind your live streaming in order to make it a really good online fundraising or digital marketing tool, if that is what you're wanting to do with it. And the return on investment of your time sitting and going through all the content creation and even the time online doing the live stream, you can repurpose that content to make the most of that time investment. So which platforms or tools do I use regularly, and which ones would I recommend to those of you, regardless of whichever live streaming journey you are currently on? For beginners, I would highly recommend that you start with Facebook Live. You can go live on your nonprofit page, or you can go live in a group. Just make sure you check your settings first if you are wanting to go live in a group. Sometimes group owners don't allow live streams, and that's okay. And sometimes you might not have joined the group that you want to live stream in as your nonprofit Facebook page. In that case, you'll be going live as your personal page, and you might not want to do that if you are sharing nonprofit specific content. Instagram Live is also an incredible tool to use. However, I would caution you here to make sure that you know which demographic of your audience is on Instagram. Typically, you would find a much higher reach on Facebook in terms of a good mix of beneficiaries, partners, stakeholders, and donors are on Facebook. On Instagram, you might have a very segmented audience where it's only your donors, for example. So in that case, you must tailor make your live streaming content accordingly. Another tool to use, which people don't, or many people don't often recognize as a form of live streaming, is if you had to create, for example, a volunteer group on WhatsApp, have all your volunteers in on that group, and you host a live session in that group with your community members, and you're able to see everybody, you're able to have group chats, you're able to talk, answer questions live with them as you go through content. It is another tool to investigate and have a look at. YouTube, of course, is the home of live streaming. And with YouTube, I want you to think of it as creating content and live streaming to the platform with the intention to have that content perform better in the long run. Facebook Live, Instagram Live, WhatsApp, TikTok, those types of platforms you can use for immediate reach, for immediate engagement, for immediate communication. But if you are wanting to deliver content through a live stream and get some of that immediate engagement, but also set up that content to sit on a very powerful algorithm for many, many years to come, YouTube is most definitely a platform that you need to investigate. TikTok. What can I say about TikTok other than I am absolutely loving what nonprofits are doing on TikTok? And for those of you that registered via email to attend the session with me this morning, I will be sending out a resource email a little bit later on to you with a hashtag to go and look at on TikTok to find nonprofits and what they are doing on the platform. Zoom and Teams, these are apps and software tools that you already have in your organization and many of you are using. However, you can actually create a private Zoom room or a private Teams room, and then you can stream that session out to your various social media platforms at the same time. This is ideal if you are wanting to host board AGM meetings, or excuse me, not board meetings, AGM meetings, or you are wanting to maybe do volunteer training. There are many ways that nonprofits can be very creative with the way that you use Zoom and Teams and actually live stream through to your social media platforms at the same time. And then lastly on the list, I've added 2 third-party apps to live streaming. And these tools, they are independently owned. And what this allows you to do is to use one platform to stream to multiple platforms at the same time. So if you are wanting to do some LinkedIn live streaming, you need to get permission from LinkedIn to do that. Restream and StreamYard are fantastic tools to link your LinkedIn account, your Facebook page, and your YouTube account at the same time, and then stream together during one session. And all you need to do is log into either Restream, the platform, or StreamYard. I will caution you, however, that the technical setup of both of these tools can take a little bit of time, and you need to be able to log into each of your social media platforms to be able to link them. So just make sure if you are going to investigate this on behalf of your nonprofit, that you are the admin on your Facebook page. You've got the admin rights on, let's say, your LinkedIn page and so on in order to link it to these tools. Added to that, Restream and StreamYard both have free plans, and that does have some limited functionality in the sense of how many platforms you can add. But for a nonprofit that's just getting started, and if you want to go with the big 3, which is Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, or Instagram, or YouTube, whichever 3 you want to put together, Restream and StreamYard are absolutely phenomenal tools with their free plans for you. Now, before you have live streamed and afterwards, in order to get the most return on investment, and in order to create your content in such a way that you can repurpose it over and over and over, there are some additional tips that I have and tools that you can use. The Adobe suite is phenomenal. Many of you, as our customers, have purchased the Adobe Photoshop and Premiere Elements bundle. And what you can do with the Premiere Elements bundle is that you can take a recording of your live stream, download it in an MP4 format, and then upload it into the video editor from Adobe. And you can add in your logo. You can maybe add in transcription. You can add in a whole range of things that you want to add. You can edit the video accordingly. You can make it smaller, trim it, you name it, you can do it. And you can then take that video and then repurpose it on multiple other platforms in the future. Also, if you are wanting to advertise out your live streaming sessions and you want to set up a bit of a content plan, of course, the Adobe suite is there for you to use to create those graphics. Now, this particular one that I've been speaking about, this Premiere bundle, an Elements bundle, that is available at a discounted rate on our store. However, Adobe does have a free tool that you can use for the graphic editing as well, similar to Canva. Another tool that I love to use is Asana. So I view our live streaming from an online fundraising perspective as a project internally. It's something that I need to manage. It's something that I need M&E for. It's something that I need to remind myself about. It's something that I need to plan. And Asana is absolutely an amazing tool to use. I'll also share with you a little bit later on in the presentation another way that I use Asana after a live stream. But before a live stream, I will typically set up my Asana board to prompt me with content examples, content prompts. It's where I can, put all of my ideas on and plan out according to our team calendar, if that makes sense, with other projects on the go. Absolutely a must-have, particularly for me, is Microsoft OneDrive. If you are an eligible nonprofit and you've received your 10 free Microsoft 365 Business Premium seats as a donation, up to 10 users in your nonprofit would have received 1 terabyte of OneDrive storage. And whenever I record sessions or I'm finished with the live stream and I download the MP4 format, I always save it to my cloud in OneDrive because, number one, I don't want it taking up space on my devices. And number two, if anything had to happen to my devices, I know that my cloud storage has got all my content as a backup, and all I need to do is just log into OneDrive using my email address, and I'll be able to access all those recordings. Lastly, Google Calendar and Google Docs. I love Google tools. I absolutely love them. And Google Calendar keeps me on track. I can sync it to my Asana. It can send me a prompt a couple of days before I'm supposed to live stream to remind me to live stream, because times get busy. Sometimes we forget. Also, with my Google Calendar, I can share it with guest speakers if I'm wanting guest speakers to join me with live streaming. And then an added functionality to that is Google Docs. Now, you can do this on the Google for Nonprofits plan if you have been afforded that donation, or you can do this on the free Google plan as well. And you can open up Google Docs, and there is a menu item and a functionality which is voice to text. And what it does is when you click on the microphone icon on Google Docs, it will then listen to you talking, and it will then start typing out what you're saying, which means we're working smarter, not harder, because I can have it listening to me while I'm live streaming, or even while I'm building my script or practicing my live stream, and I can have it in a written format for either a transcription to send out later on or to add it to my website as a blog. So some tips before you live stream. First thing to ask yourself is, how long shall I wait for people to start watching? Now, if you think about any live streams that you've seen on Facebook or Instagram in your personal capacity, have you ever heard anybody say, "Hi guys, welcome to the live stream. Just wanted to jump on here quickly. I see there are 3 people watching. Let's just give it a little while until everybody else joins." I personally don't like that approach because to me, if I'm the only person watching and I'm there watching, I'm watching. I want you to talk to me. I don't want it to just be that you'll only talk to us when there are like 100 people watching. But if that is a strategy that you want to adopt, you can, but it is something to consider because it can be overwhelming, especially if it's your first or second time live streaming. You might click go live, the button, and nobody watches, and that's okay. Just keep talking. Just go according to your script, go according to your plan, because the beauty of live streaming is that once you have finished, that video remains on your page or on your platform for people to watch in the future. So just keep that little tip in mind as soon as you start live streaming. The second thing to consider is to check that your camera is facing the correct way. Now, this has happened to me multiple times, even though I do check. So it can happen, and it's okay if it happens. It's part of that authentic, raw, sort of impromptu thing. It shows people that you are human, that you make mistakes. It can be quite funny. You can turn it into a good icebreaker, but just make sure that your camera is facing you and not the other side of the room that you're live streaming from. Also, it's very good to ask everybody right at the get-go, can you hear me okay? Am I muted? Am I unmuted? There might be a little bit of a technical glitch that you did not pick up as you went live, and so your audience is there to tell you, or your viewers are there to tell you. It's just always good to just ask them right in the beginning if they can hear you. As mentioned a couple slides ago, if you are wanting to create live streaming content whereby you are delivering educational resources or training, sometimes you're going to have people in the chat box ask you questions. Now, while you're live streaming, those questions will come up for you to see quite quickly and quite readily. But if you have got an overwhelming amount of questions happening at the same time, you might want to have somebody in the chat box that is on your team, that is part of your organization, that can answer those questions while you are talking. The beauty about live streaming that I have found, if you do it consistently and if you build up a good audience base, is that often your audience members that are regulars, let's call them that, they will see questions come up in the chat box and they'll know that you're busy talking and they will answer on your behalf. And that's an amazing way to build online credibility and a really good online audience. Lastly, and trust me, I have post-it notes all over my keyboard before I go live to say, push the record button, especially if I'm doing it from Zoom or Teams, because as mentioned, I want to use one piece of content across multiple platforms in multiple ways to be able to work smarter and not harder. And sometimes you can forget to push the record button, and sometimes you can even forget to push the go live button because you might be so overwhelmed and so fearful in the beginning that you just want to get through it. It's okay. Just remind yourself, have I pushed the correct button? Am I actually going live? And am I recording this session? So you're now live streaming, and what sort of tips do I think are prevalent for you? And the first thing is, it's okay to pause. It's okay to take a breather, and it's 100% okay to take a sip of water if you need. You are live streaming. It's as if you are with whoever you're talking to in person. And when we're in person, in face-to-face conversations, we don't just talk without taking a breather or without pausing or without maybe thinking about an answer. For some reason, many nonprofits and even business owners that I speak to, they often say, I just feel like when I'm live streaming and I'm live, I have to just talk, and there can't be an awkward silence. And I'm here to tell you that it's okay if there is. This is a part of the live streaming journey. And I know it's something that can overwhelm you while you're in the middle of your live stream, but I promise you, it really is okay to pause, and the awkward silence is okay. Also, it's very important that if you are asking your audience members that are watching you to use the chat box, that you actually give them time to do so. You know, sometimes we forget that our audience members might make a spelling error while they're busy typing and they delete it and they want to start again. Sometimes we don't give them sufficient time to answer a question before going on to the next point or before going on to the next answer or next question. So it's okay if you're doing a Q&A, if you are doing a live streaming sort of training session and you need your audience members to engage with you in the chat box, it's okay to pause to let them answer. It's okay for awkward silence if you are reading their questions and you're trying to understand what they're saying to be able to answer. And it's okay if people are watching you do that. They totally understand. And there's nothing to fear when it comes to that. My last tip for during the live stream is if you are talking about something and you say that you have a resource link, don't say, I'll pop it down below when you know that you can't actually take the time to type it out and to put it in. A better thing to do is to say, later on, I will email out, or I will be on the comment box again in the next 2 hours, and I will post the link then in the chat box. Or check back in on my page tomorrow. I will build a resource link for you based on the conversations we've had today, and I will post it on my social media accounts. Just look out for this hashtag, or tag me, or email me if you'd like the link. That is so much better than to say, the link below will have all the tips, and then your audience members look for the link and they actually get distracted by not listening to what you have to say because they're looking for a link that they can't find. So you've hosted a live streaming session. It went fantastically. Is that a word? Fantastically? My gosh, it went so well. And now here are a couple of tips for you to consider for after. First thing is, if you are live streaming from your phone, please be like me. So I'm not alone with this, and check that you've switched off your phone. And even better, check 3 times just to be safe. I switch off my phone legitimately 3 times after I've live streamed, just to be 100% sure that my phone is off. Sometimes I might even switch off my Wi-Fi to disconnect the connection and then switch it right back on again. I don't know why I do that. I think I might have seen a couple of stories before where people may have thought they'd ended a live stream session and they actually didn't. But it's always good to just make sure that you have switched off the stream, that you've actually said end stream, you've left the platform, whichever tool you're using, and that just to be 100% sure that you're not still live streaming. Another tip is that there is a blog for that. And for that, or by that, I mean questions. As much as what you can turn the content that you talk about during your live stream into a blog, also be mindful of what people ask you or what they comment about while engaging with you during your live stream. You can turn that into a blog post or even into other content for an email newsletter or for social media, which just helps to work smarter, not harder. I like to check that I have saved my recording or my downloaded file onto my cloud storage. Sometimes you might end a live stream and then you get distracted by a telephone call, or you remember something that somebody said during the chat, and then you actually forget to check that you've saved it into your cloud storage or even downloaded it. And then before you know it, a month's gone by and you're like, oh no, I didn't upload that onto my YouTube channel to repurpose it. Now, I love this tip about Asana, and I'm so excited to share it with all of you because many of us as nonprofits, we need to have M&E systems in place, and they can be very high level, or in this case, in my opinion, they can be very entry level and very simple. And so I use my Asana board after every live stream to detail things like, how many viewers did I have? What were the types of questions? Did people drop off halfway through? Whatever I need to capture from my monitoring and evaluation based on my time spent doing that activity for my nonprofit, I put it onto my Asana board. The beauty about it is that it's always there on my Asana. And unless I really delete it, it's not going anywhere. And I do it straight after my live streams. That's fresh in my mind. I'm able to capture some of those data collection points. And then come time to sit with the board and present to them what my activities have been, or build quarterly reports or narrative reports, whatever the case, I'm able to quickly open up my Asana board dedicated to live streaming and look at a year at it behind and see every single session that I hosted and all the M&E that I feel is important for me attached to that. Is your thank you social media post ready? You know, the beauty of having a thank you social media post straight after your live stream, well, not straight after, but maybe a couple of hours after your live stream, is that it can prompt members of your online audience that didn't even know you went live to go and watch your live stream. And so that is just doubling the chance of reach and doubling the chance of exposure to your nonprofit brand online. So just think about maybe using, as I said, the free version from Adobe, or even something like Canva, whereby you can create graphics that are detailed specifically to your live stream conversation. And then you can use a tool like Buffer or Hootsuite, their free plans, to actually schedule that out so that you don't forget. And it's always nice to include a little bit of a personalized thank you. For example, thank you so much, Sam, for being our most active live streaming member today. You asked the most questions and we absolutely loved this question. By the way, we'll have a resource for you in a couple of days. And then lastly, have you uploaded it onto YouTube? As I mentioned, you can take a recording of your live stream and you can repurpose it into other pieces of content, and that just helps with your return on investment. So you need a checklist. You always need a checklist. If you have no tripod, that's no problem. I wish you could all see my setup right now. I have got my laptop balancing on encyclopedias and reams of paper. And that's because I don't have a tripod for my laptop, and because I wanted to just elevate my laptop slightly. Also, if I am live streaming from my cell phone, and I don't have a tripod, there are multiple ways that you can be creative. For example, I see many nonprofits live streaming from their cars. Often they will go to different places in their community, and between those visits, they might jump onto a live stream to keep their social media audiences updated as to what they've just seen in the community or what they've just gone and done. And in that case, you can prop your cell phone up on your steering wheel in your car. If you are working from home or from your office and you don't have a tripod for your smartphone, again, stack your laptop or your devices on reams of paper or books or whatever, boxes, and then position your smartphone on your device in such a manner that you can actually elevate it. Now, if you do have a tripod, that's awesome. You're able to use it. But again, this is just a checklist to just say, be creative. You don't need to invest monetary resources into equipment or tools in order to go live. Now, one thing that you must pay attention to is your lighting. Nobody wants to watch a live stream of somebody that's in a very dark environment or dark room. A solution to that is, if there is a window close by, all you need to do is sit in front of it. Don't have the window behind you. That can sometimes make it appear online that you are in a dark environment and people might not be able to see you. If you're going to hold your phone outside, because maybe you want some direct sunlight to light up, just make sure the sun is not in your eyes, because then you might not be able to see comments or questions on your screen. But there are many little ring lights that you can purchase. I've got one that I can put on my smartphone, and it's battery operated, and it costs 35 Rand. In South Africa, you can get that from places like Takealot, or I do believe Checkers or Pick n Pay actually had a couple of them I saw over the holiday season. So there are many ways that you can improvise. But if you really need to get something, a light, use a lamp. Us going through load shedding in South Africa, and I do believe Zambia as well. I'm sure many of us have got torches. You could be creative with that. I mean, there's so many things that you can do where you don't actually have to go and spend thousands and thousands on fancy equipment and lighting. Another piece of a checklist is always ask yourself, can I use this live stream as evergreen content? Can I create this into social media posts? Can I make a blog? Can I take the live stream and trim it into little bite-sized pieces? So I take a 1-hour video and I turn it into 10-minute videos, or whatever the case. And then lastly, internet connection is crucial for this. So if the internet goes down, what is your backup plan? Will you re-record and upload? Will you let people know beforehand, hey, everybody, I'm having a little bit of troubles with my internet connection today, or we're currently going through load shedding. If I do happen to cut out, I will have a blog on my website by tomorrow morning about this content. Just make sure you detail what your backup plan is to your audience. Added to that checklist, a good thing to do, especially if you're using your live streaming as an online fundraising tool. Let's say you set yourself a goal that you want to, over this first financial year quarter, you want to reach 5,000 new potential individual donors just by doing live streaming. It is highly advisable that you plan that campaign and that you script your session. Often what will happen is you will get onto a live stream and you will have an idea of what you want to say, but then somebody in the chat might ask you a prompting or leading question that could take you on a different journey. And by scripting your session, and I don't mean you've got to sit and write out a script word for word. I mean, you could just use Post-it notes on your keyboard to just, prompt you for certain topics, to remind you to talk about them. It's always advisable to just have that in place for in case you might forget to say something really important. Also, you want to encourage your viewers to stay to the very end. You might want to have a little bit of a strategy as to how you set up your live stream. For example, I could say during the session, and I could say, like now, I've got 3 more slides to go through, and then I'm going to be sharing my top tip with you at the very end of the session. So you want to try and encourage people to stay with you right till the very, very end. Is your live stream inclusive of all languages and accessibility areas? And this is very, very important. The good news is that social media apps, particularly in the last year, they have really upgraded their accessibility functions in their live streaming capabilities. So you can now get transcription, you can get live captions on the screen. Languages, yeah, being in Africa, we are still a little bit, what's the word? We don't have as much functionality when it comes to all of our diverse languages, but it is a work in progress. There are lots of changes that have taken place to the platforms, and they are available for you to use through the live streaming software capabilities. And then lastly, if you are wanting to share with people watching you during a live stream that they can donate to you, a good thing to do is always, just before you live stream, check that those donate now functions are working. So if you've got, for example, PayFast or PayPal on your website, just check that it's working. Sometimes, things can happen. And if we don't check that the functionality is working, we never know. And then you might have all these very engaged people on your live stream with you that want to donate, and they click on the link and it's not available or easily accessible for them. And then they come back to you and they say, I can't use it, I can't donate, and that could overwhelm you slightly in your live stream. With that, I thank you all. And I wanted to share this topic with you this morning in this conversation because I know that you're overwhelmed by live streaming, and I know that you might feel like you're lacking the confidence, and I know that you are fearful of it and you're scared of it. I wanted to share this with you today because I need you to know that I too am the same. And I too, even after all my years of live streaming, I still worry about it. I still get scared. And I still have to, talk myself through the butterflies and the nerves. But once you start it and you start seeing your audiences engage with you and you feel that social impact through the screen, I promise you it makes it worth it. But most importantly, I believe that social media doesn't need more vloggers. We don't need more people telling us what they ate for breakfast and how they're going to cook their supper and how they've renovated their homes and how they're influencing with different brands. What we need is we need more nonprofits like yours telling amazing stories about how you are changing the world for good. And so I encourage you to start your live streaming journey with just one story. You don't have to script it. You don't have to be very professional with it. You can just start by sharing one story about how your nonprofit started or why it started, why it's important for you to have an online community, maybe what your mission and your vision is. And from there, use that as the diving board into a full-time live streaming journey because the world has gone digital. And more people are wanting to hear from you and your nonprofit about the amazing, amazing work that you're doing. And I really encourage and invite you to do it. I promise you, our virtual community, which is TechSoup in Southern Africa, as well as the Pombano Tech and Global TechSoup team and community, We want to hear what you have to say. And so we invite you to invite us to join your live streams. Tell us, send myself and Di an email or a message on social media and tell us, tomorrow I'm going to be live streaming and I invite you to join us and to watch. We will be there. And with that, I thank you for watching. I do encourage you to please send us any questions you've got, but a resource email will be going out to all of you that RSVP to attend this morning on our TechSoup Connect in Southern Africa platform. And until the next one, take care.